Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Gran Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? Whether you're upsizing or downsizing, the Gran Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Gran Group by emailing thegran, G-R-A-N, group at edinarealty.com or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. The Gran Group with Edina Realty, three-time Minneapolis-St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award winners. On this episode, David and Dan recap the Twins' three-game series against the Oakland Athletics. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson. The Twins take 2 of 3 from the Oakland A's at the packed stands of the Oakland Coliseum, Dan. It's hard to get a ticket out there, from what I understand.
You know how the camera angle at the Coliseum is always a little weird? Like, it's a little bit farther over? Like, yeah. I think that's so they can fit just a couple more fans in the background. Because I honestly, sometimes I wonder, like, is anybody else here? Or is it just those 40 people behind the plate? And it's such a big, big stadium, and to see it so empty is just, that must just be so disheartening.
So we're watching the game, and during one of Sanchez's home runs, it goes and it lands on those stairs over the left field wall. And my wife goes, "Why are there stairs there?" Like, it makes no sense that there's stairs there. So I'm explaining to her how it doubles as a football stadium. And like,
even though nobody plays there, at least no pro teams play there anymore. No, like,
doesn't it give you like flashbacks though to the dome?
It does,
and like
a
how
little bit.
Dumb it always looked when they had to like have these seats pushed back. Like, I hated it so much, Dan Thompson. That's why I love Target Field so much, because the dome never felt like a baseball stadium. Like,
no.
I have great memories there, right? But if you just objectively look at it, you're like, this is not meant for baseball. You look at Target Field, Dan, that's the only thing it's meant for.
Yeah, I think baseball has made a right choice in what it would have been the late 90s to make that turn back towards just baseball-only stadiums, because this is a great reminder of just, we don't want to have baseball having to share stadiums with other sports. And what's strange, too, did you realize how bad the Twins' record was at the Coliseum over the last 10 years or something like that? It was like,
no,
it was something like 6-23. It was a number that I thought, like, there's no way that they're actually better at Yankee Stadium than they are anywhere else, but they are. Like, they are worse in the Coliseum before this. So the Twins do get a series win. They win 2 of 3 in Oakland. They keep their 3-game lead in the AL Central.
How about that, Dan? Well, with that, let's jump into the series recap.
Series recap.
So, David, when you score 3 runs against the A's, like, is that generally going to be enough?
Well, you wouldn't think so, but the way our pitching staff has handled themselves so far this season, Dan, 3 runs is no longer out of the question for a Twins victory.
It feels like, and I know that the A's scored a few runs in game 2, but it feels like this offense just isn't very capable of scoring a ton of runs in Oakland. The Twins win this one 3-1. They get a run in the 3rd, a run in the 5th, run in the 6th. The A's have one in the 4th, but even with Archer on the mound, who looked better, I guess, than he did, but that's pretty low bar, I guess. I mean, they get the win.
Yeah, so Archer again pitches 4 innings, and that's really the question. Like, is Archer ever going to pitch more than 4 innings? I get that they're trying to ease him back into things due to his previous injury history, but at the same time, sooner or later, you got to let him pitch more than 60 pitches.
I think so, and you know, this is another situation with the win. David, I keep bringing it up, but Yennier Cano gets the win, and I actually thought this was well-deserved. He pitched 2 solid innings, 2 strikeouts, 1 hit. You're laughing. You don't think it was deserved?
It's a coincidence, though. It's a coincidence, Dan. The only reason he got the wins is because that's when the Twins scored their runs. Like, you see what I'm saying?
Right place, right time is basically what he was doing.
Arbitrary.
Yeah.
Yes, it makes no sense.
Well, he does get the win. It was his first major league win, David. We should be celebrating that.
Okay, I love how you want to celebrate wins, but you don't want to celebrate no-hitters. But so here's my thing, Dan. The more that you bring up this idea that I have about giving wins to the pitchers who most deserve it, the more credibility you're giving to my theory. Because, Dan, clearly it's in front of your mind. You are willing to think about this because you know deep down in your heart, Dan, the way that the wins are currently awarded don't make any sense other than the fact that there's an objective, statified way to use that stat. But other than that, Dan, you know in your heart of hearts, you know my system would be better.
I do think that there should be like situations where like a guy can be totally unqualified for the victory. Like if he, if let's say Cano here had given up a few runs and then the Twins scored 7 runs or something in the next inning to like back him back up, I get that. I would
That's
give
what
it to
happened
you
with
there.
Stashak last episode. That happened with Stashak last episode, Dan.
I guess I'm proving your point, David. I hate to say it.
You are. Yes.
Duffy does get the save here. He gets his first save of the year, so now the Twins have another guy with a save. But just a solid baseball game here for the Twins.
Were you surprised that Duffy got the call for the ninth?
After Pagan had pitched, he pitched all the games in the last series. I thought it made some sense. I thought it was good to be able to give Duran the day off, but a little surprised Duran didn't come out there, I guess.
I was a bit surprised, but to your point, like the other guys had been pitching. They needed a day. And so in this moment, if Duffy's fresh and he's ready to go, sooner or later, you're going to have to start trusting him again in these high leverage roles.
I agree. Well, then, can we move to game 2?
Let's do it.
So game 2, the Twins don't win this one. And there's more to say about this and some of the decisions I think that were made in this game, but they lose this 5-2. They do have 7 hits, but they're 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position, left 8 guys on base. And really the A's didn't, right? The A's, they did leave 10 guys on, but they had those 3 key hits with runners in scoring position. They had the big 7th inning that really, it does break the tie. And the Twins, they rally a little bit in the 8th. It looked like they had a good opportunity there, but they squander it.
Anytime that your starter is only going to give you 3 innings, it's going to get rough. And I understand that Bundy's still working his way back from the COVID list, but it's just really gonna hurt a little bit when he seemed to be effective to some extent. He had 2 walks, but he had 3 strikeouts. He seemed to be adequate and hitting the zone, but at the same time, 3 innings, Dan, is just not enough.
No, and I think if he's able to go 4, then that might alleviate some of the problems that Winder had in the 7th. And, if you can just get 1 more inning out of Bundy. I was also just kind of surprised that Winder pitched. In my mind, he was still in the rotations.
Yes.
But I realize it's very hard to keep track of who's in this Twins starting rotation right now.
Very tricky indeed. There was a bright spot to this game, though, Dan. Lewis, who is no longer with the team, which we'll talk about a little bit later, he's down at AAA, but he went 2 for 4 with 1 RBI, and he had a great play where it was interesting. So Polanco was sort of, I don't even know how to describe exactly where Polanco was, but he was on the left side of second base, we'll say, at the very least. But Lewis cuts off Polanco and probably had to make a harder throw than Polanco would have, but I don't know that Polanco would have been able to get the throw off quick enough to get the guy at first.
No, because it was close. It was a really close play at first.
But Lewis made a great play. He cut off the ball. He threw to first. He got the out. And you could see him and Polanco kind of talking about it after the fact, which is great. But it was one of those things you love to see that aggressiveness.
Sanchez also had a home run, which was in the 6th inning to at the time tie it up. It was a really important hit in the game. But again, just the Twins couldn't quite do enough against this A's staff.
Yeah, anytime you go 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position, that's going to be a problem, Dan.
Let's go to game 3, a very bright spot here. What a way to start and end the game.
They win this one 14-4. They start with 3 runs in the first, and then they score 1 in the third, 2 in the fourth, 5 in the 6th, and then just for good measure, 3 more runs in the 9th inning, Dan. What a offensive showing.
Yeah, this was actually their first 10-run victory of the season. They only had 2 of those all of last season. I got to think they're going to have more of these. When you see this lineup as healthy as it was today, right, with Buxton, Arise, Correa, Polanco, Kepler, Sanchez, those top 6 right now, especially with Kepler now, he's up to 259 on the season batting with a 789 OPS. We've seen now Sanchez, who, did you realize that I think he's 2nd on the team in extra base hits?
Did not know that.
No. Isn't that very surprising? Because it felt like he had such a slow start, but he has a couple of hits in this game, 3 RBI. He looks like he's hitting. In fact, every starter had a hit in this game, and gosh, they just kept rolling.
Yeah, so a quick note on Kepler, too. If you watch him in the box, he continues to hit to left field. He's definitely figured some things out here because he had a sac fly to left and he had a hit in this game to left.
Kepler's looking good. Also, I should correct, Buxton actually did not have a hit in this game. He did get on base a couple times, but he was the only starter who didn't have a hit.
A couple other fun notes about this game. Sonny Gray, who started this game and pitched very well, he pitched 6 innings, his longest outing of the season. He was actually drafted by the A's and went to the All-Star game as an A back when he was first called up to the big leagues, but he had never beaten the A's previous. So it's really fun that he finally got that win. And he even said in the post-game interview, he goes, a lot of times guys don't care about personal stats, but I really wanted to have a win against the A's, which is kind of a cool thing to be able to keep in his memory bank, certainly.
It's kind of like Pujols getting a hit against the Cardinals, during his stints away. I mean, it is really cool.
Yes, and obviously the biggest note about this game is Correa's return. As you had mentioned, he's in the lineup. This led to Lewis being demoted. Again, we'll touch on that a bit later. However, I do have to say, Dan, we had discussed this a couple episodes ago, that maybe Correa wasn't off to a great start. Maybe they should just try turning him off and turning him back on again. And Dan, it seemed to work. I don't know. It fixed whatever the problem was. Maybe there was a firmware update that he needed to go through, but my goodness, Dan, that guy came back and he was ready to go.
Solves everything, though it didn't seem to solve Coach Watkins at third base here. Do you want to talk about that play?
here's the deal. The Twins are up big at this point, right? They're up like 10-2. And one runner scores, and Watkins decides to send Urshela home on what's going to be a close play. When you're up 10-2, one more run likely isn't going to matter. And here's the deal. Urshela is called safe at home because the catcher botches the tag. He doesn't catch the ball before placing the tag on the runner. So Urshela slides into the catcher kind of awkwardly, and he looked like he may have been injured. The way that he got up, he was kind of slow to get up off the ground here. But here's the deal. Why are you sending that guy? Why are you sending him in that moment? There is no reason to risk a contact play at home base when you're up by 8 runs. This guy does not have that many things to keep track of, Dan.
He's got one job.
He does
really.
not
He's
have
got one job.
that many things to keep track of. Hold him. You're up 8 runs. What are you doing, Watkins?
Well, and earlier in the game, there was a moment where I thought Buxton was surely going to be sent going around third because the ball was bouncing around a little bit in the outfield, and Buxton was held at third. So I don't know. Maybe he has more faith in Urshela right now, or maybe the handle Buxton with care movement that's what Watkins has embraced, right? He's like, just don't do anything to hurt Buxton.
That's the one thing that he could possibly do that would finally get him demoted from third base coach, was if he managed to get Buxton injured.
Well, gosh. So again, the Twins win this series, and they're still at top of the AL Central with a 22-16 record. David, I didn't believe you that they were going to be in this position. I thought that they were going to have a much more difficult start, but here they are, 6 games over 500, so much better than this time last year.
Well, with that, Dan, let's go ahead and move to what is slowly becoming once again my favorite segment, Dan Thompson.
Catch 'em all, Kirby Puckett!
Puckett's Picks winner.
Luis Ariz winning it big for you. He had 12 points. I had Buxton. He had 2. This is the bust week, I guess, for Buxton, the bust series. And Polanco, for the listeners, had just the 1, and it was the Luis Ariz series here, David. So you go ahead and you gloat in your victory here.
It was good. I was very, very happy with Ariz's performance. I had a pretty good feeling about it, and I like that I picked second, and I took Ariz, and you took Buxton third. And the way that they're going to play Buxton like this, it's going to be high risk, high reward. 2 series ago, Dan, it worked out really well for you. You took him. He only played in 2 of the games, but he scored you 1,000,000 points. This time around, not so much.
I know. So you now lead straight up right now. You have 5 wins. I have 4. The listeners have 3. The listeners are in a bit of a drought here. They've been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 series in a row now without a win for the listeners. So we'll see. We'll see who they picked, and maybe they can get back in the winning track. As long as it's not you, David, I'm okay with that.
Beast versus Bench.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
I hate when I have to do this, but your guy for Puckett's Picks has got to be my beast, Luis Ariz, especially because of his Game 3 performance. He scored 4 runs in 1 game, which, let me tell you, David, that doesn't happen very often when a guy scores that many runs. When he's hitting between Buxton and Correa, if he can produce like that, think of what protection he's giving Correa and to an extent Polanco a couple batters later.
One thing about Ariz as well that I wanted to point out, he had a stolen base from second to third in game 3 before the game had gotten out of hand. Like, it was still a relatively close game when he stole third base. But the only reason he stole third base is because the third baseman is looking over to his bench coach and the pitcher is paying no attention whatsoever. So, like, he was almost to third by the time they even realized what was happening. So just a great heads up play.
That's like a Benny the Jet Rodriguez kind of move, right? Like, nobody's watching, nobody's watching. And there goes Luis Ariz taking third.
It has been a while, Dan, since we've had a good Sandlot reference. I'm glad that worked out.
I'm getting a little teary even talking about it. Who's your beast?
So I'm going to go with Sanchez. I mean, Ariz is a great pick, and I think I gloated enough here with him being my Puckett's Picks winner. But Sanchez, Dan, how great is it to see this guy swinging the bat effectively? And again, yeah, he's probably not going to be a high average hitter, but now he's hitting home runs. He's getting hits with runners in scoring position, which is huge. Just so good to see him swinging the bat effectively. And again, in the games that he's catching, I have yet to see him be a liability behind the plate, Dan.
He's certainly not Jeffers with the glove movement. Like, watching Jeffers catch 100%. A game is hilarious. Like, I think you alluded to this earlier, like, a ball's going to be up at the eyeballs and he's like pulling that thing right down in the middle of the zone. You know, like, who are you fooling here, Jeffers? Sanchez doesn't mess with that, but no, I agree with you. He has not been a liability. So that's super encouraging, especially if he's the 6th or 7th guy in your lineup.
Totally agree here, Dan. Who do you have on your bench?
It's got to be...
Whoa, hang on. Yeah, we're in full agreement here.
Full agreement. It's got to be Miranda. 0 for 9, 4 strikeouts. He has not risen to the occasion in the way that we had hoped. He's batting .094 right now. That is even below the Sano line right now. People are going to start asking for Miguel Sano to come back to this lineup, David. That's how bad Miranda has been.
Part of the reason why he's on my bench, Dan, is why is that guy not demoted and Royce Lewis staying up with the big league club? That's my question, Dan.
There are reasons for that. Let's talk about that a little bit later here, David.
Yeah, we will. Okay. Well, let's keep pushing here, Dan. Rocco's Rewind.
Rocco's Rewind.
My bone to pick with Rocco has to do, and we alluded to this in Game 2, with leaving Winder in for the 7th inning. You know, I get that you don't have a crystal ball and you don't know how things are going to go, but here's the deal. You're tied with Oakland 2-2, and you have all the momentum. You haven't lost to the A's this season. I think it's worth using some of your better pitchers to get out of that 7th and make sure that you're in a position then to be able to win the game rather than have to come back in the 8th and the 9th inning. I just thought that was a bad idea.
Yeah, it's hard to say because obviously he's not looking to eat up the bullpen arms, but it definitely seemed like Winder was done. He didn't have a great effective outing, and so I think pulling him prior to the onslaught that the A's would lay down on him would have been wise. And like you said, it's really hard it's easier to look back with hindsight than managing in the moment, but clearly this seemed like one where he should have had a little bit quicker pull there.
Yeah. What about you?
Okay, Dan, here's the thing.
We're bringing this up again. Oh my
I have taken a little bit of flack for my position on Buxton. And everyone's saying, well, this guy's an idiot. No, we shouldn't be playing Buxton when he has an off day, yada, yada, yada. This is terrible, Dan. This is terrible. And I think people need to understand what I'm saying because there seems to be some genuine confusion about what I'm talking about with Buxton's usage. I'm not saying that he shouldn't get off days. What I'm saying is rest him when he needs to rest. However, if there's a close game and all you want him to do is pinch hit for one at bat, you're telling me his chance of injury skyrockets if he has one at bat in a pinch hitting? He doesn't even have to stay on the base, right? He just needs to get in the box and swing away. I don't buy this idea that one more at bat on his off day is going to kill him and break him. And if that's the case, he can't be trusted on the field anyway then. If that's truly your perspective here, that, well, we don't want him to get injured. Okay, well, let's play him for half a game a series. How about that? Further, Dan, what I want to take this a little bit further, when you are up 11-2, for all the concern you have about resting this guy to make sure he doesn't get injured, you're up 11-2 and you leave him in the ball game. If you want to rest him, there's a perfectly good opportunity when your team is up 9 runs. There's no reason to leave Buxton on the field. What are you doing? If you're that concerned about him, don't leave him on the field when you have that sort of lead.
Fans want an ejection. There it goes.
And that was Gardy's gripe.
You know, when I saw the all caps, David, I should have realized that you were going to get a little worked up here in this moment.
It's not logical. You can't tell me that, oh my goodness, we can't possibly play him for a pinch hitting appearance. We'd hate to see him get injured. What? Truly, show me the odds that show that he's more likely to get injured in a pinch hitting appearance than he is in playing a full game. There's no statistics you're going to be able to show me that prove that out, Dan.
Is it Indiana Jones that says, never tell me the odds, or is that Han Solo? I always get those characters confused. I believe it's Han Solo, actually, now that I think about it. It's not about odds, David. All right, so I'm gonna represent the other side here that you seem unwilling to hear because I believe this has been talked about. So even Jim Souhan wrote in the Star Tribune a pretty level-headed response to Mr. Blabbermouth here and his blabbering as you are doing right now. It's really all about making sure that they get 100 games out of him, right? Out of the 162, at least 100 games, and they do not want to put him in a position where he might have to. Well, and let me say this. I think your idea that Buxton would just bat and then do nothing else is a bit short-sighted, right? If he comes into the game late in the game, well, he's going to have to go out and play center, or he's at least going to run the... Well, then you're assuming that he's going to strike out or hit a home run? Like, this is a very zero-sum calculation you're making.
You know how baseball substitutions work, right, Dan?
So they're going to take somebody else out after that? Like, is that what you're going to do?
Certainly.
You're going to burn your whole bench for one at bat?
Yeah, happily.
I think that's a pretty rare spot.
We've had that instance 2 times in the last 6 games, Dan, where Buxton could have come in, had one at bat, and had he got on base, you could have pinched for him. You could have pinched run for him once he got on base.
You know what?
So if your contention
I know. Hold on. Let me say. I'm all about like the every game matters kind of thing in baseball, but at the same time, I would rather not risk it now. Let's see come August, because I do think come August, hopefully this plan works, right? And come August, he is in a position to do that. But also at the same time, I mean, this is Rocco Correa supporting him. Like I think I think we got to let Rocco do his thing here and trust that this is the process. And Buxton is saying all the right things, that he agrees with this system. So I don't know why you're throwing a big fuss.
Again, I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding from the people who are not listening to what I'm saying. Because I think people hear what I'm saying and they think, oh, you don't want to rest Buxton at all and you want him on the field at all times. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Well, that's
Dan.
not what I think
That's
you're
not
saying. And I'm one of your critics.
That's what a lot of the critics of the system are saying, and that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, even if you're going to rest him on those days, that's fine. But there are moments where it is logical to put Buxton in for an at-bat or a pinch running appearance. It doesn't make any sense to me if you're going to have this approach that he can't be touched on these days. He's just as good a chance of getting injured on one of the days that he's playing.
David, I think we have to move on to the next segment here because I think there's no middle ground here with us, David. We're not going to agree.
I'm just upset that you're not upset about this. That's what I don't understand.
It's not that I'm not. I'm more level-headed about it than you are. I'm not so worked up. It's a long season, David. I gotta hold back here for a little bit.
Minnesota Moment.
All right. Well, speaking of controversy here, David, Minnesota moment. So I'm going to bring up a great moment, and I think it's going to segue into yours. Royce Lewis's home run in Game 2 has just shown me, and again, his play in Game 2 shows me that this guy is going to be a good Major League player when he's able to have regular time. I'm just really impressed with his poise. I'm really impressed with his batting. I think this could be an all-star player here we're looking at.
And yet, here he goes, Dan, down to AAA.
Well, so you go ahead. All right, so talk about your moment here because I think it relates.
Yeah, so all I'm really saying is that Correa has come back. Clearly, he's ready to perform at a level that we were hoping to have him perform at when the Twins signed him, paying him $35.1 million this year. But he looked very good in the field. He looked very good at the plate after this sort of short stint on the IL. But it's so hard, Dan, it's so hard to have to pull Lewis when he's performing so well. He's been one of the best hitters on the team when he's been up with the big league club. I understand why they're doing what they're doing, but it's just one of those things where it's so hard to send a guy down who's being so effective.
It surely is, right? It totally is hard to see that happen, especially when Miranda's hitting 094, right? Like, I think that's the contrast here. If Miranda's hitting better, then you can see, all right, well, but it becomes so stark here. And I think we forget a little bit that playing shortstop is not the same as playing second, is not the same as playing third base. And these are not just interchangeable parts. But then, obviously, with the way that Rocco uses Nick Gordon, like that kind of undercuts that argument, like every position's the same. So I do agree that it looks kind of messy, but I think the way the Twins have handled it has been pretty good.
Yeah, with that, Dan, I think that'll segue well into Mauer's musings.
I just don't know how it can get any better.
Mauer's musings.
Sure, and this is my question then. How can, because I think there's got to be a way, how can Correa and Lewis coexist on this roster? What do you think?
I don't know. I truly don't, because clearly the Twins see Lewis as the shortstop of the future, and clearly he's proven that he's up to the task. So here's the deal. You don't want to move a guy around, and that's what Rocco had said. Mm-hmm. The Twins have clearly shown a willingness to do this, to move guys to positions that they're not necessarily comfortable with right off the bat, just to get them on the offensive side of the ball, even if their defensive abilities are going to be limited in whatever position they're putting them in for that short stint. But in this situation, when you're talking about a guy who you hope to be sort of a franchise guy along with Buxton, it's really hard if you want him to play shortstop to be like, okay, but here's the deal. For this season, we really want you to focus on third base. And then next season, you're going to be our full-time starting shortstop. So I understand the dilemma that they find themselves in. I'm not sure what the fix is, Dan. I don't know if you have a more unorthodox approach to how to give him the at-bats and leave him up at the major league level.
So I'm actually going to relate this to Byron Buxton because I think the problem is the usage of Buxton as the DH sometimes. And they only played Buxton in center this series. They didn't actually DH him at all. So I see a window then. Like if Buxton is in theory, if they're going to use him in center and not DH, then why can't you use Lewis or Correa in that spot? And then, I don't know if you alternate them, but at the same time, like, is that doing a disservice to Correa, who's a Gold Glove shortstop, right? Like, that's the difference here. Like, Lewis might down the road become a Gold Glove shortstop, but Correa already is. So does Lewis... That's the only way I can see it happening in the short term. But then you're not giving Lewis really enough consistent playing time because he needs to play consistently because he's played so little over the last couple of years because of injury and a pandemic. So I do think that this is the logical choice. It's just hard to swallow because the guy's hitting over 300.
When they said that in the clubhouse, there was definitely sort of a sorrowful mood among the players when they found out that he was being sent down. Understandably so. At the same time, though, aren't you happy that it's not like they're not doing this to do some sort of service time manipulation.
Right.
This is clearly a move that's in the best interest of the team, but likely in the best interest of the player for the time being, knowing that he wouldn't get consistent at bats at the major league level.
And we haven't even talked about the elephant of Correa's contract with those options. Like, now what do you do if you're the Twins? Because then if you're thinking Miranda is potentially your longer term or at least midterm third baseman, and you've already got Polanco locked up at second, like, does Royce Lewis have to play left field? Like what are they going to do in that situation? It just makes me think again more and more Correa's not coming back, and that's fine. Like, that was, again, I don't think that was ever the idea that he was going to come back. That was a last ditch, worst case scenario.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't stop Bleacher Report from putting out a report.
Gosh.
Like, they're making some groundbreaking report. It drove me nuts because I click on this. I'm like, oh, there must have been something. Somebody said something. No, not at all. The industry expectation, Dan, is that Correa won't re-sign. Did anybody not know that?
That is code for
anybody
terrible journalism right there. The industry expectation? What does that even mean? Oh my goodness.
It's beyond me.
All right. Well, anyway, you have a musing here too. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I guess my question is, I know that they gave Winder a heads up going into this game, that in game 2 where Bundy was starting, that Winder was going to come to relieve Bundy once they pulled him. I wonder how much of that impacted Winder's mindset and performance in this game. Because as you had mentioned earlier, it certainly seemed to us as though Winder has earned himself a spot in this rotation. So to be kind of demoted to a long relief guy, I don't know if I love that, Dan.
It's a little weird because it's not like Bundy has been lighting the world on fire the last couple of starts.
Yeah.
And so that is my concern, is like, well, what kind of message are you sending here to Winder? Like, that this is more about clout and history than it is about, what you've actually done for us lately. I think it's an interesting concept there. And because I do think we talked about this, maybe it was off air, but previously, I think 3 of the top 4 pitchers for this team are rookies.
Very well could be the case. As far as Winder is concerned, part of the reason why this stuck in my mind so vividly, I think, is because Joe Ryan had that chance to have a bounce back start, right? Mm-hmm. And you kind of took that away because Winder's last start wasn't good. And this isn't like he's starting with a clean slate. He's coming into the game after, granted, there were no runs scored, but at the same time, it's way different as a starting pitcher to be coming in the 4th inning than it is starting the game at the 1st.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds a little bit like a Randy Dobnak situation, because
exactly.
Randy's gone back and forth, and we'll see, he might come back to this roster, by the way, too, at some point. So it makes it almost all the more puzzling that they're going to try to invest so much in Bundy when maybe he's not going to even be in the rotation past the All-Star break.
Yeah, and we should note, too, that Chris Paddock has now gone down with Tommy John surgery the 2nd time in his career. That's rough.
Hope he heals up and he's able to come back and help this team down the road in the future.
Well, let's do this, Dan. It's time to grade the series.
Series grades.
I don't know how we can be so far apart on this, David, but maybe we're just trying to breathe life into the segment here, but I'm really not trying to be contrarian with my grade. What about you?
Same. So I'm at a C+. This is actually, you gave them a B+, Dan.
Yeah.
And these are the same grades we gave them last series that they beat the Guardians 2-1 as well. So at least we're showing some consistency, if nothing else.
I guess so. I went with a B+ because I thought I saw a lot that I liked about this team. They played well. They scored 14 runs. I thought game 2 probably would have gone differently if Buxton's able to play or pinch hit. Perhaps I'll even nod that to you there. They also don't have Correa for that game. I just think, anytime you go on the road, you win 2 out of 3. That's a pretty good series. And the fact that they were able to, especially end with a nice outing from Sonny Gray, I thought that was really, really great to see him go 6.
Maybe you've convinced me, Dan. Maybe I can bump this up to a B-. We'll see.
And did you see, by the way, that was Sonny Gray's first win of the season. How interesting that was his first victory.
And do you feel that should be the case, Dan Thompson?
I think he earned it. He definitely earned that one.
Ridiculous. Okay, let's keep going, Dan. Herbie's headline.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's headlines.
So one brief story here, Dan. A fan at Fenway, he's sitting on the Green Monster, catches 2 home run balls in the same inning, Dan Thompson.
Did he turn around and give it to a kid? Were any children within reach of this gentleman?
It was him and the female who he was with, and I feel really bad for there was a fan to his right who had a chance at both of the balls and missed it both times. So it's a pretty funny replay. You can find it online. But, to catch 1 home run ball is a fun experience. To catch 2 is, the odds are ridiculous. To catch 2 in the same inning, Dan, how often does that possibly happen?
Yeah, what are the odds of that?
Speaking of odds, Dan, and statistics and things that don't happen very often, Albert Pujols, Dan, moved into 10th all-time in hits in Major League Baseball history.
First of all, I think it's really cool that we're watching, again, one of the all-time great baseball players. Like, it's so cool that Albert Pujols... Have you seen him play in person? Have you gotten the chance?
Yes, a couple of times when he was... There was a brief time when I saw him once when he was here against the Twins. I don't know what year it would have been. And then I went to a Cards game when he was with them way back when.
So a couple interesting things here. So first of all, Paul Molitor is going to be next on that list. He's only just a couple of hits ahead of him. So he's going to pass Paul Molitor. And that might be as far as he gets because Yastrzemski has 100 more, and I don't know. We'll see how long Pujols plays. But an interesting thing, and this is what I love about baseball. So Cap Anson is a guy who is not on the list on MLB, but he's on the list on Baseball Reference. And he played a long time ago, David. He ended his career in 1897, but he's not counted on the MLB hits list, but he would be on there too. So, we'll see how far do you think Albert Pujols can go?
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Like 100 more hits though isn't out of the question. Right? Like, I think it's within reason, but it does seem like he's done after this year regardless. So he could still do it this year, though. That's not out of the question, certainly.
I hope he does. I love watching baseball history right there in front of us.
Okay, Dan. Well, let's keep going. Puckett's picks for the upcoming Royals series.
And we'll see you tomorrow night. Puckett's picks.
So, David, the listeners take Carlos Correa. That puts me in a tricky spot because I wanted to pick Correa.
He seems like the hot hand currently. He comes back. He looks healthy. He looks good in the field. He seems like an obvious first choice, I'd say.
So, and the series is the Twins go to Kansas City. They have an off day Thursday, and then they play 3 in Kansas City.
So you'll get like 1 and maybe a DH out of Buxton.
I'm still going to go with Buxton. I just think...
I knew you would.
I think I'm going to... After all the hemming and hawing, I'm going with Buxton, David. I can't pass him up.
I want to choose Polanco, but I can't. And I want to choose Kepler, but I can't. I have to go with my guy, Luis Arraez, who's still on the board. I will take Arraez for the Royals series.
Fair enough, man. Well, any other notes here? I guess we should talk about Alex Kirlov. We wish that guy all the best down in AAA. I hope he's able to come back. And Trevor Larnach should be back soon. They're talking about maybe he'll come back even this series. So the Twins are getting healthier.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this roster when it's at 100%, and they're certainly getting there as time progresses. Quick note, too. Sponsors are Gran Group with Edina Realty. They have once again won another Minneapolis St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award win. So I think that notches I think they're up to 5. We're going to have to update our intro. And further, they just got certified as some luxury home specialist. I don't know. They're just winning awards left and right, Dan. They can't be stopped. Well, folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on Twitter at Men for the Win and find our Men for the Win Facebook page. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast to be notified when new episodes are available. And if you could leave us a rating, that'd be great. A reminder that episodes are now available on our YouTube channel. If you could drop us a like and a subscribe, we'd greatly appreciate it. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Twins. That'll wrap up another episode of Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, 2 avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins.